Spencer, even though I guess it's 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
We recorded these bookcasts back to back. So the recording of this, you just had a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Your fine gift, besides this awesome bookmark
I mean, honestly, the bookmarker is the better of the two gifts, if I'm going to be honest.
It's fucking has the DPW name and a beer and a pen. It's pretty fine.
It's nice.
The missus made us fancy bookmarks, and that's high quality, too.
It is.
That thing is fucking sturdy. I won't break that.
Yeah, that's going to survive.
Sidebar, I just realized now, because I have a couple wooden bookmarks I bought that are a little pricey, and they're really nice, but they're thin. If I could get good at my whittling, I could start making those and selling them for big bucks.
Yeah, you could.
That's just
you could.
just fucking whatever. Just cut up a ruler and just carve it. But also, I got you because you were very interested in reading this, and I did not. I drastically underestimated the girth. The Journey to the West, is that the title?
Yeah, the Journey into the West.
And who is the writer of that? Is it just Chinese folklore, or does that actually have a writer? Probably doesn't. That's the volume 1, by the way. I say girthy because that thing looks like an encyclopedia, and there's 4 volumes of it.
Well, I can say
English translation, obviously.
This one is translated and edited by Anthony C. Yu. I'm sure in here somewhere it probably says where the original.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if that was like a collection of stories, because that's pretty old, right?
Yeah, this is like a old Chinese like.
It's probably older than any literature we've read. Let me take a look at that bad boy. And this is what piqued our interest in this book initially was the Monkey Boy, right? Or the Monkey King?
The Monkey King, yeah.
But it's Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Goku was the little monkey, he had the tail. Like that, this was the inspiration for Goku.
Yeah, the guy, Toriyama, who created Dragon Ball, has stated that, like, not the whole thing, but just, like, the especially, like, those early, like, couple chapters and stuff like that is heavily, influenced by that stuff.
Also, shout out to Anthony Yu for translating. If he translated every volume, even this one volume, can you imagine the nightmare that would have been? Is like, ooh, let's get some ancient Chinese and then modernize it and then put it in English. Yeah. Because like I said, I found a couple Chinese editions that were, I think, way shorter. Because I'm sure the characters, individual characters could mean a whole sentence.
Probably, yeah.
If it's like the the kanji, like used in Japanese, I know a lot of those, like one kanji character can mean, I don't know, something with the lines could mean different things, and it could be a whole sentence.
And then, too, I would just assume, especially because, like, and I know Japanese and Chinese, are different, but
I think they use similar, the kanji, I think it might be the same in a lot of cases.
Well, like, whenever you showed me that one Japanese book that you were trying to, like, read through or learn, to help you learn, how small it was because of, not only, like, because of, like, the characters, but had the way it's like
vertical.
That it seems like it saves a lot of space that way.
And also it's very interesting. Again, I can't find a name on this either. What is interesting about like the Japanese is if you scan it through like a Google Translate, because I know the characters can mean different things. You'll scan it on the instant translate thing on the Google Translator, and it'll show you kind of like what it means. It'll be like, one character will be like wind of the sun, and you'll be like, what? And then you'll like look away and look back, and then it'll be like wind of the cloud. Like it'll change slightly, even though it's the same character. And you're like, is there multiple translations for this? Because obviously the software can't be perfect, especially if it's something that means different things. Yeah. Just putting that out there, it's kind of cool. I figured maybe one day that'll be a journey we go down together.
Yeah.
And they're like $30 for those. So again, you might want to buy one of those every like 5 months.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to be reading them anytime soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll just wait until I read one and I need to read the other one to get in.
Or I'll just buy you one every time there's a holiday or a birthday. And then by the time you get to read them, you'll have the whole...
That works.
Whatever. That's what I did with those Vagabond mangas. Like, my brother, he would just buy me like every Christmas like 5 of them. I still got a bunch to go. That's not even a done series. But anyway, if any of you folks have read Journey to the West, hit us up because I'm interested in learning about it. It's very dense, and I can't get to that anytime soon. I have so much wonderful fiction I want to read. But right now we got to focus on Dracula, which is completely different. I want to suck your blood. By the way, Dracula never said that in any of the movies.
Really?
Never said, I want to suck your blood.
That makes sense.
Especially in that goofy accent.
Yeah.
And he never went blah.
Yeah.
He was always, I want to suck your blood, blah. Like, he never did any of that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just some useful information. Dracula trivia. You're listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast, BookCast edition, part deuce. I have these numbered because we already did 4 bookcasts on Conan, so I guess I'll just keep the series going. So last one was 5, this is 6, so technically bookcast 6, but it's that part Dracula part 2.
That or like the we'd have to go back and renumber the.
We're not doing any of that.
Just stop
Conan.
Just quit. One part A, part B.
Yeah, who cares?
No.
I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, who was just speaking about his lustful lover Conan, Spencer, the Westchester Wendigo Church. We were talking about because, the last one was Dracula themed. He said, well, why should be Dracula themed? And I said, how about the Sacramento Sucker? But since I already said it, he can't be the Sacramento Sucker, so we're just going Halloween theme. You're a Wendigo. You're a weird, ghostly, Native American spirit wandering the woods, chasing young children to the doom or whatever they do. I don't know.
Sounds like me.
Something from Pet Sematary. Chapters 5 through 10. We said it was the first 5 chapters, which were Jonathan Harker's journal. That was actually a lie. It was the first 4, and the 5th one is Lucy.
Is that what
Nina's.
it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. Chapters just 5 to 10 we're covering. You are introduced to a bunch more characters. We have Mina Harker, which is not necessarily a Harker yet. She's engaged to Jonathan Harker. And at the end of his part, he sends her letters, and then she's writing in her diary. So it's a diary entry about, her lust for him and all this stuff. And then Lucy, what was her name? W something. Lucy Westenra. She is, turns out to be apparently the candy that affixes itself to Dracula's sweet tooth.
Yeah.
That's not at all what I was going to say, but that worked. I was trying to be poetic, and I just thought of something really stupid. But before we go there, this is where I thought I was going to drop off and hate Dracula.
Uh-huh.
Because, like I said, the Jonathan Harker stuff was awesome. Castles, and Dracula, and fucking creepiness, and lizard crawling, and fucking people dying. Hell yeah. Mm. And then it starts off with some Pride and Prejudice or some fucking Bronte sisters bullshit of fucking, I love my man. No, I love my man. I love you, girl. And it was like almost lesbianic with how much they like each other and sleep in each other's beds and snuggle.
Well, the friend Lucy, she had like 3 different suitors she was going after.
Maybe you would like one of them Jane Austen or something like that. You might
no, but I'm just saying. No, it's just more random things that why is this here?
You all right? Ooh, that was creepy. That creeped the shit out of me. I just look over. She's like looking like Nosferatu over the curtain.
So recording?
Yeah, we're recording an episode. We'll be done in 20 minutes or so. 4 hours. She wants us to eat pizza.
Yeah,
that's all she wants. I forgot. So Lucy and Mina are best friends, and just like the time period, apparently 2 women friends have to snuggle and talk very strangely to each other about how much they love each other and write letters to each other back and forth. I thought this was going to be horrible because I think it was 2. I don't know if it was 2 chapters or maybe it was just in the same chapter, their letters back and forth, but whatever it was.
Because the chapters get broken up in multiple letters back and forth.
Yeah.
So it gets kind of hard to keep track on what letter was in which chapter.
Yeah. Whereas the first chapters were just Jonathan Harker's journal. There might have been some letters thrown in there, but these are very broken up. So you have diary entries, letters to each other.
Yes.
Then we also are introduced to Dr. Seward, who's taking care of Renfield, the insane maniac, who also seems to come under Dracula's spell at some point. I don't think we hit that in the first. I think that's after chapter 10 he's really hit by that, but he's a very bizarre individual.
Knowing what we know of the Dracula mythos, it does appeared that he is somehow under the influence of Dracula.
Which I am actually interested to see how that happens exactly.
Yeah.
We also get introduced to Arthur, who is one of the many suitors for Lucy, because apparently she's just hot stuff. Lucy, by the way, I felt this was completely unnecessary. This is, again, why I was disinterested for a little bit, but then it does pick back up and wraps around to Dracula. But why did we have to hear about her dates with these suitors and them wanting to marry her, and it just went on and on?
Or why, we gave a damn about her walking in her sleep.
Well, that does come up, but they really go heavy into that.
But, beforehand, though, it's not...
Well, the first 1,000 times, I did kind of just oh, again? What the fuck? Yeah, Lucy falls, I don't know. Does the one chick live with her too, Mina, or what? Because they're, sharing a room?
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell's happening. But, yeah, Lucy would just walk around the room, and she's fucking sleepwalking. That does have a point later. Again, comes back to Dracula, but we'll get to that. And then Van Helsing makes an appearance by the end of this, too, that's when Spencer gets pumped, because he loves him some Van Helsing.
Well, again, it's just that's a Dracula thing. That's a Dracula thing. That's the thing I know.
I know that name. I only know Renfield from that Dracula Dead and Loving It. I think it was a Mel Brooks film.
Oh, yeah?
It's a parody movie. And Renfield, I forget the actor, but he was just a fucking idiot. That's a great movie. I forgot about that. Anyway, we... Just fucking skipping all the lady stuff. Because it really is just them talking about suitors forever and the dates, and Lucy's rejecting some, and she goes with
and
Arthur.
How Mia is growing worried because she hasn't heard anything from Jonathan in a while, so she's starting to
Which is some of that was interesting because what Dracula did to the letters. He sent them out, and he sent them in specific dates, and she is worried about him, but then she's talking about fucking getting married and stuff.
And then also she starts to talk to an old sailor dude.
Mm-hmm. But then the story does pick up, and you had some questions about this. There was a tale about these sailors.
Well, see, that's whenever I kind of actually started to get back onto the story, because this is just Dracula picking off fools. Yeah. It was all that stuff before then with the girls where I'm just I'm not seeing what the plot is here. What is where?
There was unnecessary backstory to those ladies, I felt, especially with the suitors.
But though I feel if they become bigger characters later on.
Yeah, but again, I don't think we needed all that, the romance aspect and stuff, or to know just how great of best friends they are. He was padding the fucking word count on that. But when we get to the sailors, and I kind of forget how this started, because it was a week or two ago I read this part, but the sailors, they're going, I forget where they're fucking coming from, but they're fucking bad storms or something.
A lot of fog.
Yeah, then every night though, a sailor would be missing. And then they start to go, some of the, I think it's the first mate starts going mad.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty extended, I'm going to fast forward through this, but it's, it's written out pretty well. It's a pretty big chunk of the story here. What ends up happening is the fucking sailor and the captain end up being the only ones left. The first mate and the captain. And the first mate, he's pretty much saying, hey, there's a fucking monster or a man. They kind of see him, but the captain doesn't believe it. It's I saw someone, and he's going to get it. He's a fucking creature of the night. You'd be smart to follow me. And he jumps overboard, drowns himself. And the captain, who doesn't, because he's the captain.
Yeah.
He doesn't go down with the boat.
He wants to. He kind of wants to, but he's the captain.
He ends up... Now, does he have a cross around his neck? He has some kind of protection. Either a cross or... I think it's a cross. And he ends up tying himself to the wheel, I think, or the stern or something. And then when the boat finally comes to shore, his arms are cut to the bone from the thing, and he's obviously dead.
Yeah.
But he didn't get eaten or killed because he had a charm around his neck. It never said Dracula. I don't even think it showed a bat or anything. You just got this specter. These people kept seeing something, a guy on the boat somewhere, but they would look for him and never find him.
And it would be able to because then one time they wasn't he up on the stern or whatever?
Yeah.
So he's able to how Dracula climbed out his window. Kinda.
There was a lot of really cool imagery. But again, you have no idea. And if you're reading this for the first time, no knowledge of Dracula or vampires, you'd be like, how is this guy there?
Oh, dude, this would be so creepy.
If you read this for, back then, it would be fucking awesome. I understand why it's lived up, for so long. So like this story gets around and stuff, and then there's a good bit of that kind of happening. Then Mina, fast forwarding a good chunk here, Mina ends up going to Jonathan Harker, who is really sick in a hospital in some other country, I think.
Yeah, somehow they found him there or something, and we still don't know at this point. We don't, because we assume that Dracula did something to him.
He's very sick, and he's
brain fever,
and he thinks he's gone mad a bit, and he's forgotten the whole ordeal, but he wrote it down. And he had the nurse read it, but he instructed the nurse, give it to my wife, because they end up getting married while he's in the sick bed. He's like, but I don't want to read it. I don't want to know what's in it. So he's like, he forgot everything. What is alluded to is he escaped, and we'll get to these journal entries again, which I can't wait for. So what you're thinking is he must have escaped the castle and found whatever village, but got very sick along the way. That's what you're thinking happened. Going back to the England, Lucy, without Mina there watching her, is getting really sick, and she's very pale.
Because she keeps on having these bad dreams or these nightmares.
And again, the sleepwalking, and it actually came to a head right before Mina left. Is Lucy found Mina barefoot in a graveyard, I think it was, and I forget if she said she saw something like in the moonlight or something flapping or something. Again, it's alluded to, but you're not quite sure. But what happened is Dracula was sucking her blood out there.
Because didn't they do wasn't there a part where like when she was having a bad dream and they alluded or like a shadowy figure a bat out the window. So what I was figuring is somehow which I was thinking maybe this is what happened to Jonathan too, is that maybe Dracula let him go. But, depending on your Dracula, he has, mind memory things. So maybe, he erased Jonathan's mind to make him forget about the things he saw at the castle. Which then would be, how he can control people to, you will let me in your house.
Yeah.
You want me to, you know what I mean? Because he has, they have to be invited in. Or at least I don't know if this, but...
We'll find out. And again, that goes back to, how he controlled wolves and things like that, which there's... I don't think we're on it at this part, but there is another part with a guy has a pet wolf, and we'll get to that. But when and I really love the scene where she is in the graveyard and just the writing of it, of how it's pretty much describing what she's feeling while something's sucking her blood out of her neck. But you don't know it's Dracula. Through all this, you don't know Dracula's actually the culprit. You would obviously assume, because the beginning was about how creepy Dracula is, but you don't know anything. And if you didn't know the character, you would have no idea what's going to happen. This would all be a surprise. And then, we'll fast forward again. So Mina's gone now, and Lucy is in her sickbed pretty much in her house. And she's just getting weaker and weaker. Something, they think she's anemic.
And Arthur, the guy who won the pony show.
Yeah, her boyfriend / fiance or whatever. He's worried about her, and he gets Dr. Seward involved, who runs an insane asylum where, again, we have Renfield. Brief part of Renfield, I like how he collects sugar so he can collect flies, which collects spiders. It's very bizarre how this guy's set up. So he's like a harmless maniac at first. We'll get back to him. But going back to Lucy, she has these 2 puncture wounds in her neck that are kind of gross.
Yeah.
The skin around it's white, I think. And they're just kind of raw, but they're very tiny, and they just won't heal. So even when Mina was there, these wounds would never heal, and Lucy usually just covered it up.
Yeah.
She would, but so something sucked her blood. Fast forwarding again, we get to Van Helsing.
Yeah, because the doctor...
They didn't know what to do for her.
Yeah, so he was... Because I think Van Helsing was his teacher or something like that.
Yeah.
So he writes him, and he,
comes in from Amsterdam, I think,
because he's gung ho because I'm sure later in the story they allude to him probably having to deal with this kind of stuff before.
They kind of did. They talked about he's a very peculiar man, and he's not just about science and medicine, but the kind of the occult. He's he knows about, and he has books about all kinds of stuff, and they kind of talk about. Again, if you didn't know the story, you might not get it. But knowing the story, he studies vampires.
Yeah.
He knows about vampires. And at this point, you're just assuming if you were a modern reader in 1897, you probably didn't know about vampires.
Yeah.
Unless you read The Vampire, which we spoke about the last episode, or maybe some other stories that might have came out about vampires, you wouldn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Still. Like, you wouldn't, but it's not like now where you can put two and two together.
It hasn't been a big reveal yet.
Yeah, there is no reveal yet. So Van Helsing comes in at the request of Dr. Stewart, and they see the girl, and he kind of already knows what's wrong. And I don't even think he saw the vampire bites yet and knew what was wrong.
I think because he does such a good job of explaining whenever because she's pretty much almost like imagine it's like the human body was a sponge.
Yeah.
And there was nothing left in it.
She sucked out.
Yeah, because her teeth, her gums were drawn back to her teeth. She was her face was sucked in and stuff because of they were thinking because the doctor just thought she was losing blood somehow, but it was there's no cut, there's no
They don't know how or
wound,
why. And if you're just reading for the first time, you wouldn't know this. But knowing Dracula, it's obvious he's coming through the window, sucking her blood every night.
That what I was starting to think was that she's just slowly getting turned.
Well, that's another thing. I don't know if they get turned, because she does go out in the daytime, and there's parts where she got better.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't suck her blood for a couple days, weeks, or whatever, and she was hanging out with Mina, and she's fresh in the face again. Yeah. She's rosy. Like, she would get better, but then she would get worse. And it was all written very well, and as always when she has these night terrors. So she would go through these spells. You don't know. Well, I don't know this either, because I'm not real familiar with like even modern Dracula movies and stuff. Do you get turned? We know that's a trope, but is that actually a Dracula trope?
I don't know. And again, that's all with whatever kind of vampire story you tell on how they get turned or if they can get turned.
So we haven't got to the point where we know if you could become a vampire, because the way it's played, because they end up giving her a blood transfusion, and they have to a couple times because there's some fuck ups along the way, and she gets drained again. But you don't know if she can get turned. But again, that wound doesn't heal. So maybe she is, but there's no sensitive to sunlight or anything yet.
Well, because the reason I thought maybe she was getting turned is because there's once they start trying to once the doctor and Van Helsing's there's never an opportunity for for Dracula to show up to suck her blood again. Yeah. But she gets all thin and stuff again. You know what I mean? So I thought maybe that's she's becoming a vampire, and that's her.
She just needs blood.
Because with Dracula, we were saying, he was starting to. Jonathan saw, once he had some blood, he
got younger looking.
Yeah, and maybe with her just being, they're using a baby vamp, she might not be able to control it or whatever.
I actually didn't think about that as maybe. Because I don't know the established rules, so if she was turning into a vampire, does she get fangs, or is that just something that doesn't happen unless you're already a vampire? Yeah. We don't really know the rules of vampires yet as of reading this. It hasn't even been established if Dracula can or cannot go into the sun. He just doesn't. He sleeps during the day, or, then he leaves at night and stuff. But we don't actually, he's very pale and stuff, but we don't know if he actually gets burnt, like the classic, he gets burned up by the sun. We don't know that yet. So if you're just reading this, you wouldn't know any of this. Van Helsing, going back to him with his learned ways, he makes her a thing of garlic. Have you gotten to that yet?
Yeah, he got his friend to send some bushels of garlic plant.
Yeah, and he makes
they rub it all over the windows and makes a necklace for her to wear and stuff.
And then she starts to get better again. Did you get to the part where her mom takes the garlic away?
No.
Okay, so that'll be the next episode. So where you're at, she's starting to get better after the blood transfusions and stuff. And I don't know if it was mentioned yet or not.
But I think Van Helsing still thinks it's far from
over. He realizes it's not over. And also and again, I don't know. I know it's talked about, but it definitely gets talked about more after this. Is the flapping at the window she hears. She'll start to explain that more, that there's a flapping at the window, which is some kind of bat or something. And then later on, when the mom does come in, she sees the bat kind of, and there's a really cool scene. That's where I'm at. And then going back to Renfield, he starts to have episodes where he's not just a harmless maniac anymore. Was that also described? Like, did you get to that part yet? Where
Yeah, well, like
he escapes and he gets violent and things like that.
Well, they let him escape. The one part I let there was like they were trying to let him escape to just kind of see
where he's going,
what he would do and what he does. He would have like sprints of violence episodes, but then he would also have like long periods of time of not like
during the daytime.
Yeah,
it was always like specific times at night he would have these spurts of violence and he'd act completely different. What that is alluding to is that he's under, again, you wouldn't probably put this together right away, but he's under Dracula's spell.
Yeah,
we don't know how, and I don't even remember if they mentioned any kind of flapping or anything near him. I think maybe once there was some kind of flapping, or he mentioned a bat or something.
Yeah.
And he does mention like some kind of, I don't know, like a lord or god figure or something like that. He mentions briefly. But again, you don't know any of this. So it's getting very, very spicy here. And we're only, like...
10. I'm 10 chapters in.
Yeah, so I'm maybe 15. So we're not even, this is a pretty long book. So... Yeah, I'm like 100-something pages in, so I still got like 300 pages. There's a lot of stuff's going to happen, I think. I'm very interested to see where this story leads and how many tropes come up.
Well, what I would like to say too is like how we've been talking about like if you didn't know, but we know most of these things,
And
but
some are still surprising.
But yeah, and yet still it's still like entertaining and engaging and is a good read, even though that like as you're reading these things you can kind of almost like if you really wanted to be like, oh, I bet this is what's gonna happen because I know a decent amount of the of the information already.
Well, even a good portion of Lucy, where she's getting weaker and weaker and stuff, I didn't realize right away that he kept coming and sucking her blood.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't, you didn't really think about it because the way it's written, you don't know that. You're just like, oh, she must be sick or maybe she's turning or something. But this is one of those things, man. It would have been so awesome to be able to read this when it first came out. Because it would have been like something you never read before. It would just blow your mind.
If you read it when you were a kid before you got a chance to get any of that
lore, yeah.
So you definitely liking it more than Frankenstein?
All I will say about Frankenstein is that it's fucking trash. I don't know how many rants I have to go on, but Frankenstein is not anywhere near. It was overwritten. Wasn't very good. The plot's boring. Just does not compare to Dracula so far. Dracula actually, like when he was in the castle in the first 5 chapters, there was actually parts where I was like, dude, this is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh shit. Like the way he
Yeah.
describes this stuff, I was like, I would actually, like if I was a kid reading this, I might actually get scared a little bit. Like this was actually creepy. I can't say that even about a lot of modern fiction I read. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not usually creeped out. But that castle part was like, what's that? Like when he cut his neck and then fucking Dracula lunges for his neck, you're like, holy shit, what's happening here? So there's a lot of cool shit with that. And thus ends part deuce.
Deuce.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I don't know. How should I broach this one? I know how.
I don't
Oh,
know.
my fucking hammy.
Again, for those people listening, Caleb's been having a hammy for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we just record 10 episodes in a row and everyone. My hamstring. Like, damn, that guy has like a month-long hamstring problem. If you folks want to check out the great stories and fiction and everything else we got going on, you can head on over to drunkenpenwriting.com. You can check us out on Twitter at drunkpenwriting, Facebook and Instagram, drunkenpenwriting. We're not taking any more submissions, by the way. We got too many. Also, what else are we going to do? Oh, if you want to be kind, you can give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Google Podcasts is changing. I don't know what that's about. And whatever podcast app you use or anything like that helps. Get us some views. We would very much appreciate it. And, yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know what else we can do. You know what, Spencer? There is one question I did want to ask you.
Yeah, what's that?
One very important question.
Yeah, what is that?
It relates to your dinner plans, actually, sir.
Okay.
Because I know you were mentioning you were kind of hungry. And,
Yeah.
You know, we actually got some pizza going on upstairs.
Yes.
But I think a more important question is, do you want to eat a baked potato off of Megan Fox's backside? Surge! Eat the tater.
Yes, the answer is yes.